Next name up on deck is Gen Restaurant Group, which Bob reports will price next week. It's a concept of 32 Korean barbecue locations, one of the largest chains in the casual Asian dining space in the U.S. Gen boasts impressive average unit volumes of $6 million a location, according to its S1. For context, that's about 3 times what a Cava pulls in, double what a Chipotle pulls in. Gen also touts the profitability of its restaurants in that filing. Now, turning back to Cava, so far, as you mentioned, down around 10% on the week, up over 80% from its initial pricing. I spoke with analyst Mark Kalinowski on these two concepts, and he noted both Korean barbecue and Mediterranean food are a little more niche compared to a Chipotle Mexican food or a Shake Shack's burger and fries, or even a Sweetgreen with its salads, the latter of those names going public in the last few years. All three of those stocks have performed very well this year. Shack is up about 80%, Chipotle near 50%, Sweetgreen up over 25%, although well off of its IPO highs. So what's next here? After Gen, a few other concepts are on the table, including Panera, which announced it would replace its CEO in July in preparation for an eventual IPO, but no timeline there. Then Fogo de Chao and Fat Brands Twin Peaks also filing paperwork to go public. So timelines remain to be seen for some of those names, but Cava could give an indication on investor interest in this space. Back over to you.
Twin Peaks, Jen, either I need to get out more or these are pretty niche.
They are, and smaller too. But oddly enough, Kelly, when you look at some of the stock performances, casual names have actually been performing a bit better than the fast food players so far this year. I talked to Blue Shirt Group. It's an IPO advisory group. They didn't work on the Cava deal, but essentially they said Cava could kind of be a bellwether for restaurant IPOs to see what the appetite is. Restaurants, we got to remember, an attainable luxury in a potential downturn. Panera could be similarly viewed from a price perspective for consumers like a Cava. Gen is a bit more casual and a bit pricier, so it remains to be seen how they all do.
All right, Bob Pisani, meantime, what about beyond the restaurant stocks, some of the other names that we should be watching for a debut?
There are some signs of green shoots, although it's still very, very tentative. So what's got my interest is next week, 3 companies have announced that are fairly large. What's large? $300 million range. That's a little unusual because we haven't seen 3 like that in a long, long time. So here they are. This is Fidelis Insurance. This is a very large global property reinsurance company. They're trying to float at the midpoint about $300 million. Kodiak Gas Services is a natural gas compression company. They're also trying to float in the area of $300 million. By the way, all these are on the NYSE. And finally, Savers Value Village. Believe it or not, this is the largest for-profit thrift operation in the United States. Very interesting company. Didn't really know much about it until I started reading about it this week. These were all announced this week. Believe it or not, Kate, we have not, Kelly, we have not seen $900 million raised in a long, long time in a single week. And this is the first time, I think it's only happened once in a year and a half, where we've seen 3 companies try to raise more than $100 million. So that's a very good sign. Let me just comment on Cava, because the amazing thing here is it's holding up, but below the initial closing price. So remember, it priced at $22 this week. It opened at 42, and it closed a little bit above that. So that's the important. They closed to $43. The next day, it turned down, and as you can see, it's trading in the 38 to 39 range. So here's the next day curse. Good news. Opens strong. That's a good sign to other IPO candidates out there. Very good signal. Bad news is trades down the next day. This is the next day curse. So everyone who got the initial allocation the night before, they're making a lot of money. But the average investor who bought on that day, they're down. And of course, as you know, we've talked about this, Kelly. This is a big problem with IPOs. Investors on the first day tend to lose in the following months. And of course, what you got to do there is improve the pricing. Lower prices, but the IPO people, they want higher prices. Finally, let me just point out the IPO ETF. We were at a 9-month high last week. It's been down this week, and for a very good reason here. Remember what motivates the IPO market. Number one is higher stock prices in general. S&P was at a 52-week high last week. It's faltered a little bit, and then more stable interest rates. That's a major issue. Interest rates, as you know, Kelly, moving towards the high end of the recent trading range. I'm talking about yields, and that could be a major issue for IPOs. So let's keep an eye now on whether we get these unicorns that are out there, the Reddits of the world, the other big companies, including ARM that's been talking about this. Let's see if we get some big names in the next couple of weeks. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. Any comment on that, Bob, as to why they haven't seized this market opportunity?
Well, the cynics will say, okay, nice, Bob, you got 3 companies. They're good. 300 million, that's a lot. But they're niche players. The big guys that really have a lot at stake here are hesitant because They're worried about the recent rise in interest rates that they've seen. They're worried about the market sort of topping out. They're going to announce they're going to go public 3 weeks from now, and the S&P will be 5% lower. All of this could happen. Maybe we'll start trading at a higher new range, higher yield range. But the bottom line is, if this is not the time, when is? Are they going to wait till September? We don't know. This seems to be a very good opportune moment, and I'm not surprised a company like ARM has been actively talking about initial front-end investors for their IPO.